What's going on, everyone? So today I want to talk about some very awesome news. There's going to be a new Intellivision console, and on top of that, Tommy Tallarico has taken over as president of Intellivision. Mind blown, okay? I heard this news and I'm like, oh my god, I have to make a video talking about this, me being a ginormous Intellivision fan and all. And so let me take you back a little bit, okay? Like, I want to talk about a friend of mine that's no longer with us, former president of Intellivision, Keith Robinson. Okay, Keith Robinson was always an awesome guy. Okay, Keith Robinson is the first. He was the first person to show me that, you know, like, game programmers and fans can be on the same level. And, you know, before that, I always kind of, you know, I knew of different game programmers and different music composers and stuff like that in the industry that I really respect, and, you know, I like their work and everything, but I didn't think that they were approachable. When Facebook first started taking off and people were switching over from MySpace to Facebook, he was one of the first people on there that I came across, and I'm just like, oh wow, that's Keith Robinson, that's amazing. And he accepted my friend request, and next thing I know, we're talking. You know, like, we're talking about Intellivision, we're talking about, like, different, you know, gaming memories, we're talking about cartoons, and, you know, every year he was always there to wish me a happy birthday, and it just blew my mind. He would say funny little things like, happy Intella birthday, or, you know, something like that. And every time that happened, it was so cool for me. Like, because that was like, it was like, you know, Mr. Intellivision talking to me, you know. It was so cool. And then from Keith, I was able to find other Blue Sky Rangers. Like, I came across David Warhol and, you know, Bill Fisher, and just, you know, all these different people that, you know, worked on some of my favorite games ever. And that was super cool for me. And then, okay, we'll fast forward a little bit here. Keith Robinson passed away. And that was really sad, because he was, like, such a great dude that, you know, cared so much about Intellivision. And he would go to the conventions, he would talk to people, he would talk to the fans. He wasn't just some guy that, you know, made his millions and thought he was better than everybody else. Like, he was just this really warm, awesome dude, right? And so when he passed, I was bummed, you know. I remember going to the arcade, my favorite arcade, Hyperspace Arcade, out in the Denver area, and my friend Russell was there, and, you know, we were both just, like, shocked, you know, that, like, oh my gosh, you know, Keith Robinson passed, you know. And so for a while there, I was sad about it, you know. Like, I wasn't thinking about what the possible future of Intellivision could be. I was more thinking about, that sucks, you know. Like, it sucks to lose somebody so great like that. But several months went by, and I was on the Facebook page, Intellivision Invasion, which was created by my friend Robert, who you might know him better as Intellivision Dude here on YouTube. And, you know, there's a lot of, like, original Intellivision programmers and stuff that frequent that page. And so that's really cool for us hardcore fans, you know, to interact with these people that, you know, programmed and everything, or marketed, or whatever they did. They did all that for our favorite games. And so we get to talk to them, and it's super cool, right? Well, I proposed a question to the group, you know, what's going on with the future of Intellivision? Because, you know, like, I know it's sad to talk about Keith and all, but what's going on in the future? And nobody really knew. We knew that Stephen Rooney still owned, you know, most or some of Intellivision Productions, and so we're kind of interested to know what he was going to do, what's his next move. And so for a while there, nothing really happened. And the website seemed kind of slow and everything. And then next thing I know, Steve Rooney is selling off like a lot of really cool stuff on eBay, like cool Intellivision stuff. Like he sold off he sold off a few things now, I think. High-end stuff that you don't see every day, right? And so I was thinking, oh man, this is bad news. Like, this is good news for collectors, but bad news for Intellivision fans, because this could mean that they're liquidating their back stock, you know? Like, and I didn't know how to feel about that. But before I could really formulate any kind of major opinion on it, I was more curious to see what else he was going to post. But before that could happen, this news of a new Intellivision console hits me in the face, and I'm like, whoa, really? And Tommy Tallarico and everything, and I'm just like, what, really? Tommy is the president of Intellivision? And the more I thought about it, the more I thought about how I think that Tommy Tallarico is quite possibly the best person to, I'm not going to say replace, but I'm going to say fill Keith's shoes, you know? Because they both kind of have the same kind of demeanor going on. Like, they're both funny dudes. They're both, they like to talk. They're really into games, you know. And so, yeah, the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, this is perfect. This is totally perfect. And so, and then I started hearing Tommy out about, you know, what this new console is going to be, okay? And so, let's go over what we know, what some of my predictions are, and what I'd like to see. Okay, so first off, here's what we know. We know that it's going to be a console that's aimed at everybody. It's a console that, you know, a 10-year-old girl, an 80-year-old grandma, a hardcore, you know, 20-something-year-old gamer, and like a soccer mom could all get along and find value in it. You know, it's something that is going to be, you know, like everybody can enjoy this. There's going to be something for everybody on this. And, you know, it is family friendly, so that means no mature titles. And I did ask Tommy Tallarico that straight up, you know, are there going to be mature titles? And the answer is no, there won't be. And at first I was like, well, what do I think about that? You know, because, like, you know, when I play modern games, I like there to be a lot of blood and guts and swearing and drug use and you know, boobs, sex, you know, whatever. and that stuff is cool on the PS4 or even the PS3 or something like that, or on PC. But when you think back to the original Intellivision, like these games behind me, none of them are gory. None of them like have boobs in them or anything like that. Like, they were all very family friendly back in the day. And so that's what they're going to bring to this new Intellivision console, and I like that. I want the games to be simplistic and fun. You just pick it up, you play it, you enjoy it. That's all there is to it. It doesn't need to be over-the-top graphics, swearing and drug use and boobs and all that kind of thing, you know? It doesn't need to be that, because we already have that. We have that on PC, we have that on PS3, PS4, Xbox, that kind of thing, right? And they're not competing with Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony. That's not their plan, okay? Like, they're actually just gonna make a console that appeals to everybody and have good, simplistic games on it. And that's exactly what I want. I want another Intellivision, and that's what it sounds like this is gonna be, okay? And so, right out of the box, this thing is going to play over 80 original Intellivision games via emulation, okay? And so that's pretty cool too. I like that. I like having the access to the original games that can be played on my HD TV and everything. That is really cool. But on top of that, it's going to play new games, and that's what I'm more excited about. I want to see new games. Like, I want to see remade versions of the old classics. But I also want to see completely new games, okay? Like, the homebrew scene is going to be awesome on this thing, because they're actually going to work with homebrew developers you know, and they're not going to put any game on the console that isn't at least a 7 out of 10. And so, like, if it, you know, was like a shitty game, they don't want it on their console. And I like that so much. That's quality assurance right there. That is so cool. And so now you got to think, in order to play new games and the original games, you're going to have a controller that can do both. Alright? And so this is a prediction, but it has been kind of hinted towards, and so I'm guessing that it's going to have a touchpad built onto it, or a touchscreen, I should say. Okay, and so what makes me think that is that they have confirmed that they are going to use a disc, like the original Intellivision disc from the controller. They're going to have that on this new controller, okay? So, first off, I don't want it to be the original size. The original size is like this or so. I want it to be smaller, kind of more like a analog stick from like a PS4 or something like that. I want it to be a little smaller so your thumb can get around it easier. That leaves the action buttons that go on the side of the controller. And so, as long as you have 4 buttons on this thing, that's going to be good enough, especially knowing that only 2 of the shoulder buttons are actually do something unique. The other 2 just do the same things, okay? And so, it has to have at least 4 buttons. It has to have this disc. But what are you going to do about all those buttons with the keypad? Touchscreen, okay? So, yeah. That's where I think they're going with that, and that makes me happy. Something else we know is that you're going to get 2 controllers in the box. Right out of the box, you get 2 controllers, so you don't have to screw around with going and buying a controller separately, okay? So that's awesome. I like that. We also know that they're going to be wireless, and wireless is a huge plus, like especially when it comes to kicking back in your recliner, playing some games in your living room. You don't want to mess with these cords. Like the original Intellivision has some pretty short cords on, pretty short wires on the controllers, and so it kind of limits you. You know, like you have to have that console closer to you, which isn't really that big of a problem. I've always got around it just using, like, you know, extension cables and stuff. Well, like power extension wire, right? You know, because the original Intellivision controllers are hardwired into the console, and so yeah. Either way, so those are all things that we know about this thing. Another thing that we know about it is that it's going to be under $200. Now, Tommy has said that it's not going to be just under $200. It's going to be a lot under $200, and so that doesn't mean $199.99 or $189.95 or $179.99 or something like that. It probably means closer to like $149 or something like that, you know? We'll have to see. It really depends on how many options that they put into this thing. Now, when it comes to the actual games, it's not going to have a cartridge port. And so that's been something that's been kind of a debate lately amongst like Intellivision fans is, you know, like, well, how are we going to play our original games? Like, I talked to Tommy about if we'll be able to load Intellivision ROMs like through the SD card slot, and he basically said that no, because piracy, you know, and if everybody is like pirating the original Tron Deadly Disc, then that gives Disney no reason to, you know, possibly allow or help with a new Tron Deadly Disc, you know, like, I mean, and so that makes sense. That makes good sense. It's not that it couldn't be hacked, you know, I mean, come on, you know, like, what isn't hacked nowadays, right? But for legality purposes and for, you know, wanting games in the future or new games, it's probably best to avoid that kind of thing, right? And so they were kind of talking about, well, maybe, you know, we could do SD-based games, you know, like like sell a game on an SD card, like in a box with a manual and stuff like that. And then that way you have something like a physical copy that you can stick up on your shelf and be proud of and stuff like that. And I do hope that they do that, because that would be cool. SD cards are cheap, and they could be made to look good, And, you know, sure, you could probably back them up or something like that. There's always the piracy thing. But honestly, come on, man. Like, they're going to be cheap. And this is what I really like about the console. All the games are going to be downloadable, but they're going to be super cheap. Like, they're going to be like $1.99, $2.99, $3.99, $4.99, that kind of deal. So that means that even though I won't have like physical copies like easily accessed or easily accessible, like the downloadable version will be. And so that's cool. I like that. I like the gamer in me says, hey, I want a bunch of cheap games that are good, right? The collector in me, however, does say, I want those SD card games so I can put them up on my shelf. And Tommy was talking something about, like, wonder if the programmers, like, or people involved with the game autograph them and everything like that. And that would make it even better for me. Like, let me show you something that I have over here. Maybe it might be hiding. Like, check this out. This is Keith Robinson signed that. This is the DS game, and it's 12 out of 200. Low number, very proud of it. Here's the Intellivision Lives collection. I also have it on GameCube. I just kind of picked that up as I was picking this one up. But yeah, I love that thing, right? I still have it after all these years because Keith signed it. And so, you know, something like that would really make my day, especially if it's affordable, like $30 a game or so. Sign me up. So, that's what we know so far. Like, basically, we know that the family-friendly console, no mature titles, downloadable games, possibly SD-based games, 2 controllers, which are wireless, utilizes the original disc technology, and will probably have a touchscreen built into it. Is under $200. The console is under $200, and we also know that a lot of, well, not a lot, but some of the original Blue Sky Rangers, like David Warhol, and others are going to be working on these games. Now, I don't know if you've looked up David Warhol lately, but man, that guy has made some of my favorite games. Like, oh man, he did the music on Thunder Castle. I fucking love that music. It's so cool. Anyhow, sorry, fanboy gushing here. Anyhow, what else do we know about the console? Oh, we know that it's not going to be crowdfunded like Atari's VCS, which I happen to think that thing's a joke. But either way, yeah, no crowdfunding. So you can just go to Target or Walmart or something and just pick it up. Go to GameStop and trade in some stuff and pick up one, And so that's really cool. And what else do we know? I'm thinking that's pretty much all we know at this point. There isn't like a whole bunch of information out about it yet. One thing that was discussed that sounds cool is the possibility of like a third party making a cartridge kind of deal that could maybe go through USB or something like that to play your original Intellivision cartridges. That sounds pretty cool. I like that. If you had something like that, you could easily hook up your LTO flash, stick it into that thing, and have all your Intellivision games, plus all the homebrew games, right there on your new Intellivision console through your HD TV, and that would be pretty sweet. However, if they're doing, digital format, that's cool too. It still does the same thing. One of them is just a way to use your original cartridges. But honestly, like I would probably rather just go digital, as long as I can back up these digital games, mind you, because I don't want to invest a bunch of money into digital games that I can't re-download off a server or that I can't back up somehow, some way, because that's asking a lot. Like, as big as an Intellivision fan as I am, like, I don't want to throw hundreds of dollars at this thing just to find out, like, in 3 years the server goes down or whatever, and I no longer have copies of these games. And so that's the one thing that I want to discuss that I wanted to discuss that I felt needs to be covered in an upcoming Q&A about the new Intellivision console. But I think that sums it up pretty well about what we know about the console thus far. And honestly, those are all really big selling points for me. The fact that this isn't going to be just another play and plug kind of bullshit kind of toy. This is going to be a legit new Intellivision console. And no, it's not going to be that one piece of shit. What was that thing called? Hyperscan. Oh man, that thing sucked, But that was Mattel. Like, that Intellivision hasn't been Mattel in a long time. So, anyhow, guys, I think that sums up everything. Let me know your thoughts, Let me know what you think about a new Intellivision console coming out. What do you want to see on this thing? Is there a certain game or certain games in general? Like, what do you expect out of the controller? What do you want the actual console itself to look like? What kind of inputs, outputs do you want on it? What are your expectations? Let me know. Until next time, which will probably be after they do their next announcement in October. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. How about that? We'll leave it at that, and then after they make their further announcements on the console in October, I'll make a follow-up video. Until next time, guys.